Welcome back to Middle Fingers Up. I'm your host, Kiran. And today's guest, okay, what can I say about today's guest? I have so many things to say. Today's guest is someone whose story and kitchen I have had the privilege of stepping into. Shuraya is a Bengali home cook. She's a mother, she's a wife, she's a daughter, she's an immigrant, and she is a storyteller. She's not just teaching recipes, she's inviting people into her home, creating a space where culture, healing, connection are passed down one meal at a time. But this kitchen wasn't just born out of love. It was also born out of loss. After the passing of her father, cooking became a way for Shuraya to reconnect with her roots, honor his memory, and find joy in the middle of grief. Also, her story does not stop there. Like so many South Asian women, Shuraya has spent years navigating careers, workspaces, motherhood, all while living with undiagnosed ADHD, something that has showed up in ways she couldn't always explain, she couldn't really put language to, and now she's finding that language and she's learning what works for her. And what I love the most is that she's also sharing this knowledge with her community. Somewhere along the way, she had hit her mid-30s and she has given herself permission to slow it down. So to take that longer shower, to build that skincare routine, and just to stop apologizing for the need to rest, just to go for it and do it. And that's something many of us, especially immigrant women, especially mothers, especially daughters, we're all still learning to do without guilt. So today we're talking about food as love. We're talking about grief as a fuel for creativity, ADHD as a lens into our work lives, and self-care as a survival. And how in the midst of this give, we have to find space to give back to ourselves. So Shuraya, welcome to the show. I've been counting down for this conversation. How are we doing today?
I'm doing wonderful, Kiran. Thank you so much for inviting me as a guest to speak at your podcast. It's awesome to really have a space where you can advocate about mental health, and not just mental health, and even like the shared stories and life in general. I feel like us as friends as well, like we do touch up on topics, but being as a mental health advocate yourself, it gives me that voice to kind of share my insights and my like the knowledge and the wisdom that I have. I'm only 36, but I am so ready to look forward and to head straight with the greatest confidence that I've ever had in my life at this point in life. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak, and I'm super excited.
See, everyone, like you know why I love her. You already, just by what she said, you get these warm fuzzies. And from the minute I've met you, just the connection and the ease you bring into the space that we're in. So I'm so grateful for this. I'm glad people get to meet you, and people that know you get to also learn maybe a different side of you or something they don't know about you. So should we do it? Should we get into it?
Of course, yes.
All right. Okay. Well, let's do it. Okay. So I had mentioned in the intro, also, actually, before we get into it, is there anything that I missed about the intro that you want to add, and another hat you wear or something you want to throw in there?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of layers that any person has, and not just mother or parent or daughter, like an immigrant daughter, sister as well, and daughter-in-law. There's so many layers, and I think it's a lot. I think I'm just excited to see what we touch on beforehand and then how we end it.
Okay, then let's do that. Okay. You're right. There are a lot of hats. And so, as I was saying in the intro, I had the opportunity to come to one of your cooking classes. What an experience. It's not really a class. It's not like going to school. Some of us were nervous to go. I think, like for me, I don't cook very well. I don't feel confident in the kitchen. You bring so much ease. And I think that's one thing I want people to know right off the bat is like if you hate cooking or you are worried about how bad you might be at chopping onion or what, that's not at all what this cooking class is about. There's such a different vibe. So let's talk about that for a second. What inspired you to open your home in the way that you have with guests that get to come in and have this experience with you?
So, like a little bit of my background. So, I immigrated from Saudi with my six siblings in total. We're a big family. We immigrated from Saudi to Canada, so in Toronto. And my dad actually was the first Bengali person to open the first supermarket in Toronto. So, where you could find all the Bangladeshi vegetables and foods and everything, and the entire. And so, in 25 years, that community became the Bangladeshi hub. Like literally now there is 20 plus stores. Now there is a sari shop. Now there is sweet shop, mishti shop, and there is so many things. There is so where all the Bengalis now get together. So he was the first person to open up that gate to create that community. Because again, I feel like I see how he felt because that's how I felt when I moved to Calgary. That sense of belonging, the void. I live in the southeast, deep southeast, Calgary, where there is no samosa shop. Like I miss my samosas, my shingara, like we say in Bangladesh, and they're different. They're not the same as the Indian type. And so I missed it. And I was like, what? So I started cooking with it. And I sort of got Kieran, like from young age, I'm like, I will never cook with dough. Like I don't get it. I kind of always like beforehand, I always aim for perfectionist. And I feel like dough is something that you will mess it up. You will go through trial and error. And I wasn't ready for that. So I was like, I'm never working with dough. But moving to Calgary, right after I moved to Calgary, I lost my dad after only 8 months later. So I didn't get to see him when he passed away. I obviously quickly flew there. Never got to say goodbye to him, but that all that experience within that 1 year. So moving from Toronto to Calgary to feeling this void, and then my dad passing away. I went through a lot that year, and of course, my daughter was only 1 year old, and I was starting to have health issues as well. So there's all this stuff for being dumped on me, like without any of my control. And that, I think that's what pushed me to kind of look ahead and be like, what can I do? How can I deal with it? How can I grieve? How can I embrace the grief? And how can I share my stories? So I can also build a community just like my dad did and also share my stories. And I have met so many guests. Some guests cried to me and saying that after attending your class, I started cooking because my mom passed away 15 years ago. And it was a man, believe it or not. But so I'm seeing all these connections, and I feel like all this is happening, and heading towards the right way. And we have no control of it. We don't have the wheels to drive. We just have to go with it. Yeah. That's how my class started.
Just so well said. Thank you for sharing that. And we're going to pick apart some of that immigration,
Yeah.
moving through the provinces. We're going to get to some of that. But a couple of things that stand out that you said is one is this what your dad started, this community he created from scratch. Like that's something to be so proud of. And I would imagine if he were here today, he would feel a sense of pride in the way that those of us that have experienced your kitchen share that. I'm not surprised that people cry in your classes. I'm not surprised that people share in the way they do because you open your home and your heart and you share. When I went to your class, there was a young Bengali chef that came, and I remember her saying that she was very disconnected from your community as well. She had her reasons why, and she was just really craving a Bengali home cooked meal. She hadn't had one in years, and she looked she just went
Yeah.
online, found you,
Yeah.
joined the class, and came. And I was like so honored that I got to be there when she was there and to have that back and forth with you. And so there's so much magic in that. And all you're doing is creating a class. And then there's these people that come there and share their stories in the way they do. And so I think that's phenomenal. And I'm curious, like, for you, what does it mean when someone walks into that kitchen of yours for the first time? Like, what's the meaning for you? What's the significance for you?
I think yes. When someone does come to my home, it's not just the aroma, right? The aroma, everybody loves the aromas of the spices. And when you
Mm,
walk into an Indian restaurant, that's like, I love that smell. So yes, it's definitely there. But at the same time, the greetings, how you welcome, the first impression, the smile. It's the same thing as when my husband comes after a long, like he's a mountain biker that he does as a hobby. And when he's coming after 6 hours, I greet him with a smile. I try to greet him with a smile because at the end of the day, everyone goes through, like, I don't know what that guest went through the day before. I'm not going to assume well, they're having the best life. I'm here to create a space where they can relax. They can just not worry about anything and simply indulge in delicious home cooked comfort food that they can just simply feast on and take something with them when they go home, and everyone gets a recipe plate. So there's no excuse that there's no reason for you to not make it. Especially, I have a lot of home cooks coming, right? So they're going with this binder that I provide, and they're like, I cannot wait to cook for my family. And so they're creating memories. So yeah, that brings me immense amount of joy. And again, growing up with a big family, my dad was very well known in the community. During Eid, our door would be open, so every half hour, every 15 minutes, a family is coming in, eating, leaving, coming in, eating and leaving till 12 a.m. So that's how I grew up. I grew up
yeah.
with table filled with feast. I grew up with my family arranging all these food and welcoming them with open arms and people genuinely coming every year without any invitation. So
Yeah, I honestly, I know where you live now, and I know that you and your husband freeze food as you showed
yeah,
us in your freezer. So,
yeah,
because like, let me tell you, I have never in my life experienced food from Bangladesh, so I don't know what to expect.
yeah,
And I remember another guest that was there. She was so cute. She was like, I don't, because what you had prepared that day was all vegetarian, and we
yeah.
were full. Like when you say a table that's a feast, that's an understatement because it really was just dishes and dishes. And I remember that this one woman saying, "Oh, I always need my meat. Like I need my to eat meat to get full, and I cannot believe how full I am. And we didn't have any meat today, and it was like it was so cool to sit there and learn from other women that are also vegetarians and are like, it's so limited when you order food and when you eat vegetarian dishes. It's kind of like secondary. People don't really consider it, and here we are full on feasting with a vegetarian meal. And
Yes.
so I'm curious, like, for you, what's a moment in your kitchen where you felt most connected to your purpose? Like you were exactly where you were meant to be? Because I felt I was exactly where I was meant to be that day when I came. I had a rough day, and I had mentioned that. And my husband encouraged me to go. I was going to cancel last minute,
Oh.
and I was so grateful because I remember standing there and being like, "Oh my gosh, I have goosebumps. I'm so glad I'm around these women. I'm here." And so I want to know for you, like when was that for you in your kitchen where you connected to your purpose and you're like, "This is where I'm supposed to be."
Yeah, I think it's when I had my own kitchen. So the
Yeah.
a little bit of background, a little bit of background of that is, so I always had a passion for cooking. I think growing up, and I'm the oldest, daughter of the family. I'm the second oldest. I have an older brother, so it's brother, me, brother, sister, brother. It's like that. We have like a pattern going on. But being an oldest daughter, it's almost like you don't even have an oldest brother anymore
I
because
believe
you
it.
yes, it's almost like you exist as an older sibling and you're there to provide, to protect, to care for. And I had this from childhood. I had this really deep passion for cooking, but I didn't have the space to cook. So my mom was a passionate cook as well. My dad love to cook as well. So the thing is, I really never got to cook at Monster. So I started cooking after I got married. So after I got married 12 years ago, I finally had my own kitchen. And even at that time, the first actually 6 years, I was sharing it with my mother-in-law. So again, that's still sharing. There's still like, struggles and navigations going on while sharing a kitchen with another woman who also likes to cook. And
Right,
my
yeah.
husband also likes to cook. And so now, after moving to Calgary, they have their own unit downstairs. So we have our unit. I finally have my own kitchen. And honestly, that's when like I was able to cook with the dough, cook with, making fresh lasagna, exploring all these different recipes, Korean fried chicken, pizza, all sorts of recipes. I went crazy. And I think my husband, my kids love to eat. And that's what motivates me. I cook every day. And I love to do that. It's just a genuine passion. I have a legal assistant background. I studied law and stuff like that. And I remember going to a family law firm, and all the lawyers are already working. And I'm going in with like paratas, like, paratha in the morning.
Mm,
And I'm like, guys,
mm-hmm.
I made them fresh. Please have them. And yeah, I did. I did very well in my job. But at the same time, they remember my food. Even after
Yeah.
5, 6 years, that's what they remember. And food is, what goes inside. It's what you feed yourself. It creates a memory. Like
It
you
does.
can't erase that.
It's therapeutic, and
Yeah.
I think this is a magic only immigrant women carry, because when you share that story about bringing Pronte to work, I think of my mom, and sometimes I get mad at her because she that's how cooking is how she shows her love, and she will bring appreciation, cooked food for the doctors assistants, her physiotherapists, like people she's going to see who are helping her heal. It's her way of giving.
Yeah.
And so everyone knows, oh, Gopi's going to bring something. And let's, and in some ways, she's
Yeah.
also moved first to the line for an appointment too,
Yeah.
because people are like, yeah, we'll take Gopi's cooking. But it honestly, you only hear about, I mean, I'm sure others do it too, but it's such a trait for immigrant women who that's how you show your love. And I think that's amazing, and I hope that never ends. You talked about earlier about your father's passing shaping your decision to start your kitchen. So, can we talk a little bit about grief? Grief is a funny thing in our community. It's always interesting how we process it. So, for you, like, what did grief teach you about what matters most in your life?
We see how grief, again, that concept. I mean, we have lost our grandfather, grandmother, but they were all in Bangladesh. And we didn't grow up like as an immigrant, our parents here. We don't have any uncle and aunties and grandparents, actually. We were only the first generation here. So, me and my siblings, we didn't grow up with uncle and aunts. But people are passing away. They are passing away in Bangladesh. And yeah, we hear about it on the phone. We cry about the same day, but it's not a life changing thing because again, we're not that close, right? So the first experience, obviously, experiencing grief is when my father passed away. Which again, out of my six siblings, I was the only one who was very very close to him, and who he was also very close to me. Like he also felt like my daughter was my trophy. He proudly said, "She is the manager of my house. I will listen whatever my daughter says, whatever is good for my family." And yeah, that's how he treated me, like that. And so after he passed away, it's almost like, yeah, you get confused. You almost go like, okay, next time when let's say I had like an argument with my mom, um, I didn't have my dad text me back and say, "You'll be fine. Just call her, talk to her. She's sad." Like this time when I had a fight with my mom, my dad's text didn't come. And I think that's when it hit me. And I'm like, oh, like I cannot just have somebody else kind of, lead me or just comfort me. That's what I got, comfort. He's a very emotional man. He was very emotional man. And in the family now, I feel like I'm very like emotional person as well. And so I felt like part of me just died, just like how he was emotional. He was very close to me. I felt like part of me also passed away. So I felt that void. And so when I was well, when I started therapy a few months before that, and then my dad passed away. I basically, for 1 year, I couldn't look at his photo. I could not hear his voice. I could not eat the food that he used to eat. Like, I literally, for a year, I did not. And so through healing, through therapy, I found ways to navigate life and to really slowly open the doors to breathe, to really go to the places that he used to, pick up that chips that he used to buy for me. I remember, Kiran, when I went to the Bengali store in Calgary, I went in and I'm there to buy fish. Okay, yeah, I'm starting to cook fish because me and him used to eat fish curry every day. And so I'm okay. I see the chips bag and I break down in the middle of the
Oh.
store. There's so many shopkeepers and they're just looking at me like, oh my God, what happened?
Hmm.
And again, that's grief. It comes in waves. You don't know when it's going to strike, but when it comes, my other thing is to sit with it, to process it. And it's not something you get over with. It will come back in a month, in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. It's your dad. Um, you cannot forget that. There's no such thing as forgetting it. It's just about living with it and really embracing it. When you process it, and then what am I going to do next to kind of heal from all this? And that's what I'm navigating my life into. Yeah.
Yeah. And I really, really love how you say that it's learning to like live alongside it. And I think sometimes we are mistaken and we're trying to fix it
Yeah.
and get over it. And when it's a love that's like so worth having, the grief process is just as worthy too. And I think it's an honor that we get to grieve people that mean so much to us. And it's definitely maybe not that sort of feeling in the moment because it's heavy and it's hard and you're
Yeah.
breaking down and we're losing control. But when we do sit with it, I think, yeah, we acknowledge how grateful am I that I get to be so emotional or feel
Yeah.
this, like I had that kind of love in my life. And so I think what you're doing and fueling your grief through this creativity and this connection with your dad with cooking, it's such a powerful way to process that. And it shows up because even when we were in your cooking class, you shared a bit of that with you, but what it really did was, like you're in the driver's seat, you're sharing bits and pieces, but I can see what you're doing is you're also opening doors for other guests to feel comfortable to either sit there in silence but also share theirs. And when you openly talked about how you started this cooking kitchen, it was really, really cool to hear some of the other women share their own grief stories. And grief
Yeah.
isn't necessarily just a death, it's a
Mhm.
loss, and loss
Yeah.
happens in many different ways. And all the women talked about something that they were grieving. And it was so powerful that
It
that
is.
because
It is.
you did your work and acknowledged what you were doing, you were
Yeah.
able to let 8 other women, brown women, in
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
room have a moment of their own that I'm sure we all walked away with something more than just a recipe at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So I think I
Yeah.
think thank you so much for you created a therapeutic space. It's therapy without having to go before a therapist, right? Talk therapy doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily work for everyone, but what you did was encourage people to want to share and talk. How
Yeah.
is that for you when you hear this?
It makes me very happy. I really feel the gravity of sitting because grief is lonely. It is a lonely process. You are supposed to grieve on your own and then grieve together. You have to process it on your own. But there's a lot who don't know how to process. So when you finally kind of show ways to process, other ways to process, so when you hear someone else is processing it, subconsciously, actually, you're also processing it, believe it or not. And then when that moment, that wave comes to your life, you think about it again. Oh, wait. Yes, I'm going to sit with it today. I do feel like that's the purpose of my life, Kiran. If I can help anyone collectively and just in a shared experience without having the focus and the limelight on them, that's amazing. They were comfortable. I was comfortable. I wasn't pushy. They didn't feel like obligated to share. It happens naturally, and that's my goal to create a safe space where they can do that. Because where else can you do
Yeah.
that? right? Where
Yeah.
else can you do that?
That's
Yeah.
so true. So is there anything on top of that that you would hope your guests walk away besides with a new recipe? If you could have your way and you knew they all left, what would you hope they left with?
And I laugh because I tell them, hey, now you have a recipe. I will wait for my invitation.
Oh man, okay, shoot. I gotta tell my husband to learn it so that he can we can invite you.
No, no, of course, because it is, a lot of people have told me, like, no, Shuraya, like, I know you share and stuff like that, but it takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of courage to also do what you do.
It's
And
true.
yes, confidence is a big, big thing. Public speaking, also, right? It's a big thing. And I feel like, I just want them to go out with their stomach stretched out and
Oh,
also unable to walk out of my home.
that's a given for sure.
And just take away that memory and then come back, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't cook the same thing every class. It's completely different to what I cook. And my class is all sorts of meat, right? Lamb, chicken, shrimp. It's not just vegetarian. So come back, you see my class. You're always welcome whenever you're available. Yeah.
There was a woman there, and that was like her second or third class that she had attended. She had been
Yes.
there a couple times before, so I think you're
Yeah,
absolutely right. People do come back.
I have.
So what's a fear you had to work through when you opened your home to strangers?
I think yes, my mom and dad, both of them said I'm like a fearless tigress. They're
I
like,
believe it.
this woman doesn't have any fear. And that you could interpret that both ways. Like it's a bad thing for them that you're not fearful, but it's also a good thing for them. But I think more than the fear, there was struggles because of my ADHD.
Oh, okay.
Yes, that struggle was there. Believe it or not, the first 3, 4. So I host one class a month. So the first 3, 4 months, I broke down half an hour before the guest came. I
Oh,
legit
interesting.
like doesn't matter. I wake up at 6 a.m. I wake up at 8. I wake up at 5. It doesn't matter how prepared I am. The breakdown is happening half an hour before. And that's just a clustered all the stuff that are in my head, the overwhelmingness. But believe it or not, when they come, it's out the window.
Mm,
So it's
mm-hmm.
the internal struggle of, and I guess that's the fear, right? The fear of messing it up, the
Yes.
fear of saying something wrong. And Kiran, I know, honestly, that was my first, and I'm so happy that I got to host 8 of you South Asian women. But that was my first time because all the 200 guests that came into my home this one year, they were all really Caucasian. They were
Mm,
Caucasian, they're Europeans. I have lots of Filipinos, lots of Asian. So my guests are all over the world. And yeah, it's that fear that what if I say something? What if I pronounce something wrong? Because I do have an accent. English is my second language. I only came here when I was 12. Um, but yeah, that fear of messing it up, that fear of what if they're like when I heard that chef, it was her second time, by the way.
yeah.
So when she came first time, suddenly I never felt it, but that day I was thinking about my chopping skill. Because I'm like, what if she thinks about my chopping skill, right?
Yeah.
I didn't go to a culinary school. I don't have any experience in working in kitchen. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the fear. Yeah.
So I love that you talked about that internal fear, because I think from the outside, we often can look so well put together and we throw lipstick on, do our hair, and we show up at
Yeah.
these events
Yeah.
and whether we're a guest or, it's you, the chef that's cooking for us, we all play this game of I'm cool, I'm good. No one knows what kind of breakdown we had in the car, or even like
Yeah.
before going to an event, what many of us go through getting ready and not almost wanting to cancel sometimes. All these sorts of things come up. So I think a lot of us women can relate to what you're saying. And I'd love to break that down a bit more. Like,
Mhm.
what advice would you give to some of us that are struggling and we kind of get in our own way and maybe we don't live life the way that we could because we cancel our quote unquote plans often.
Yeah.
And I don't just mean plans of going out to dinner. I mean plans of goals and dreams and all these aspirations, all these, even you and I were in an event recently And some of the women were so free getting up and out in the backyard and
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
dancing.
Yeah.
And for others, that would be nerve-wracking to just be
Yeah.
free that way. So we
Yeah.
all have our limits and whatnot. And so what's your advice to us about how to address those internal fears?
Everyone will need different advice, I think. But at the same time, yes, the fear, the internal struggles, take a take a moment, take a step back. I think instead of rushing through that next thing to do, take a step back. What's We're so fixated into getting something done, getting something out the way, because that's because our mind will drive us crazy. That's it as an ADHD. Until it's out the window, our mind is constantly sitting with it and fixated into it. But it's okay. Who's pushing us? Who's rushing us? Who's telling us to go? Nobody. You are in control of your mind. And if you feel that overwhelmingness is there, take a step back. Take a step back before you go into that whole breakdown or freezing mode. Take a step back and take your time. Take that 5 minutes, take that 10 minutes to write it down. Write down what at that time, like I have this book. I have a book that looks like a sari actually. Pretty cool.
Ooh.
But I have this, I carry it with me everywhere, and when I do the stuck point, is what my therapist told me. What is my stuck point? What is that is making me scared and not able to go with it smoothly? You write it down. And the more you expose yourself into what really scares you, like you said, these internal fears, the lesser you will feel it the next time. So instead of saying, "Oh, I'm just going to get it done. Okay, okay, okay," and then everyone's gone, and then now you're crying. We don't want that.
Yeah.
We don't want that. We don't, there's no rush. No one is judging you. And if there are, who cares? You are your own judgment. Carry yourself with confidence. And that only really happens. Our confidence really comes when you sit with your weakness. like, Admit, embrace your weaknesses. And no one is perfect. No one is rushing you. So I think that's what the first step is. And then you will do wonderful the next event. Yeah.
Mm. I love everything you said about that. And even if there's people listening and they're like, no, well, that doesn't work for me. I think the challenge really then to you is we're not really that unique when it comes to our how our brain works. Our brains work very similarly, and you're talking a lot about how we live in the unconscious, and our majority of our time we are in, and you had mentioned it too, in the unconscious. And in order to bring something to the forefront, it's exactly what you said, is say it out, write it out,
Mhm,
because
mhm.
then the brain recognizes it instead of
Yes. Yeah.
living in that limbo. And
Yeah.
that is very, very therapeutic and very, very helpful. And so I love that how you talked about it in just like a scientific way, even that, yeah, it is for
Mhm.
everyone. That is
Yeah.
exactly what our brain needs. And the thing that's helpful here is to hear like a South Asian woman like yourself who's also experiencing it talking about it. And I think that we live in so much of the stigma of,
Mhm.
well, I won't share my problems because you're all doing well. And I think we're all just
Mhm.
dying for someone to say, hey, I'm struggling. Obviously in
Mhm.
a safe space. We're not looking for
Yeah.
auntie that want to gossip and talk badly about us.
No,
We're
exactly.
breaking those barriers. We're not those auntie. We are a
Yeah.
different generation of auntie that
Yeah.
say, hey, come over here. Let's
Yeah.
talk about it. Me
Yeah.
too. Let me give
Yeah.
you a hug. That's inspiration. I want to do better. You want to do better. That sort of thing. So you talked about coming down, immigrating when you were 12 to Toronto and then moving to Calgary. And I'd love to talk a little bit about that because you even mentioned about your English and sort of the struggles to maybe, I think, feel connected to Canada. Can we talk a little bit about your journey? You shared a little bit about where your story began in the beginning, but
Yeah.
how was adjustment? How do you as an immigrant woman explain your experience to your children who are born in this country? And so
Mm.
what's that experience been like for you, and the good, the bad, the ugly?
Yeah. It was definitely ugly. It was definitely ugly. I mean, I cannot having two kids right now and thinking about them being born here and everything, thinking about shifting to another country with a completely different language. I'm thinking, wow, what kind of emotional that's going to be. trauma that they will talk about with the therapist of
Yeah.
moving to another country because they were so scared. The unknown really scares you. And as much as us siblings, were brought to Canada to have a better life, because of course that was the main reason why our parents decided to move here. And the intentions and everything was right, but at the same time, they were also living the first time. They were also the first parent, like first time being parents, first time navigating life and getting different language. There was a cultural shock as well, because coming from Saudi, where you were wearing hijab and burqa from head to toe, to coming to a culture that is completely different, our parents actually go through cultural shock
Yeah.
so much that the fear makes them think that they need to just create a community where it's only Bengalis here, and then you have Pakistani making their own community, and then
Yeah.
you have Chinese immigrants into one community, and then you have, oh yes, but then when we came to Canada, thinking I'm studying in high school, and see that's the thing. I always had this curiosity into why it is what, like why was my curiosity. I have a curious mind, and I would always say, I keep reading in the book. Toronto is a multicultural city. Toronto, but they're all segregated.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't see Chinese coming into the Bengali community. I don't see Indians or Bengalis going into Chinese community. So this segregation only happened because of that. Again, our parents coming with that fear, with the best intention, but they did have that fear that fostered a segregated community where us kids, where we went to school with all races, suddenly we're facing bullies. Suddenly, I mean, I was heavily bullied in high school and middle school. Like I had boys. I used to wear hijab. Boys would just walk behind me and drag my hijab down. I have had girls push me to the toilet just because I spoke my language with my friend. I did grow up with a lot of being bullied, and that's what it is. It was tough, very tough while learning a language and also acing your school because parents expected, they had such high expectations. You had to get an A plus. I had 98. My parents were still not happy. They're like, where's the 2%?
Yeah. Yes.
So
Yeah.
I thought that
Where is it?
2%,
Yeah.
where is it? So instead of being grateful, it was more pressure, right? There was the
Mm.
pressure, immense pressure. And imagine, Kiran, that was your teenage years,
Yeah.
and you're going through hormonal stuff, and there's romance.
Yeah.
There's boys. I only went to all gender school only when I went to York University in Toronto. Before that, I was all girls school. So when I saw men walking at York University, I held to my dad. I'm like, what?
Right? I would imagine like the culture shock, like things that you don't know how to prepare for.
Yeah,
You
they
don't
did
even
not
consider
prepare us.
that.
No, no, no. That's the thing. And as parents, we do all think we're doing the best. I know I will pass down something to my parents. Again, it's all about how much less we're missing on. It's
Yeah.
not about
Yeah.
whether we are or not.
Yeah.
Subconsciously, we will, and that's the beauty. That's life. But I think with their fear and pressure, we definitely had that struggle of navigating life through teenage years, young adulthood. Yeah, yeah, it was
Yeah.
definitely tough. Yeah,
I'm really grateful to have you talk about your experience as an immigrant. And I think it's something that we have to continue to talk out loud about because that bullying, that mistreatment, that lack of understanding, and the huge
yeah,
amount of privilege that comes with those of us that behave that way, it
yeah,
hasn't gone away. And I think a
yeah,
lot of people today are like, oh, racism, it's really not there, but it's just a nice version now, and it's
yeah.
hidden, it's subtle, and not all immigrants see it in the way that maybe my parents, when they came years, and you had glass bottles thrown at your head when you were walking down the street.
Yeah.
People aren't doing that anymore. They're
Mhm.
giving those, the microaggressions, like people talk, saying to you, oh, your English is so nice, good for you, and you're like, oh, thanks, that's a great compliment, but really it's like, excuse me, that's not at all a compliment. And I think we have to understand, like, that segregation. Sure, every community that came in wanted comfort and did that, but I also feel like that's just the way that North America is set up, and there's
Mm-hmm.
going to be this divide, and we are a
Mm-hmm.
global majority. There's more of us
Mm-hmm.
people of color, and if
Yeah.
we can start to understand, like, we are going through such similar life experiences, and
Yeah.
sure, you want to live in on the block of people that look like you, absolutely, but also it's okay to go to each other's communities because we have a lot in common.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you your opinion, because I'm
Mm-hmm.
curious about, I've been thinking a lot about this. Like, as you know, I'm born and raised here in
Mm-hmm.
Canada, and I'm going through my whole anti-racism of growing up wanting to be white. And so now I've been putting myself and being invited into spaces where I get to hang out with a lot of immigrant women that are South Asian.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, like, sometimes there's this gap between
Yeah.
Canadian born South Asian women and immigrant South Asian women. And I've been very curious about it lately. I'm now seeing my role in how I used to view myself as a Canadian born Punjabi girl versus an immigrant coming in. And it
Mm-hmm.
was very, very privileged mentality where I'm better, my
Mm-hmm.
English is better, I'm
Mm-hmm.
educated. It was very much of the Western white supremacist kind of way.
Yeah.
And lately, I have been invited into spaces where it's majority immigrant South Asian women. And I've had the privilege of experiencing being the different one, the
Yeah.
one that can't read the decorations that are written up, the
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
that women will be like, oh, you're born and raised here. Like this
Mm-hmm.
tone of you're not really
Mm-hmm.
one of us. And I'm sitting with it because part of me's like, oh yeah, why wouldn't I have to I should experience that. And then part of me's like, it's kind of cool to see other immigrant women like rising and having this
Yeah.
confidence. And
Yeah.
because my mom and a lot of my aunts didn't have these kind of spaces to go
Yeah.
into and celebrate being immigrant women. They had to
Yeah.
assimilate and be
Mm-hmm.
less immigrant in every way.
Mm-hmm.
And so my question is, like, what do you think is creating this divide, and do you see how we can sort of bridge it and bridge that gap in a real meaningful ways? Do you have thoughts about how we can acknowledge it and come together, or, like I said, bridge that gap?
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. I think at the end of the day, we're all humans, right? I know, even like I said, like for example, when I went to the Bengali store in Calgary, and when I told the shop, like the man who owns the shop, the owner, I told him how I offer this curry cooking classes in a Bangladeshi style. Here I am expecting like he's gonna be so proud of me, like how my dad would have been very proud of me.
Yeah.
But like I'm sharing with this uncle, like, and he's like, they want to eat that.
Yeah,
He's
interesting. Yeah.
like, they want to eat our food. So again, where is that coming from? It's coming from an assumptions. And assuming, as a human, honestly, we hold a lot of assumptions in our head of each person that we interact with. Whether we have talked to them or not, it doesn't matter, but we already hold these assumptions and we sit with it and we hold it. And sometimes because of the assumptions, we'll never approach that person, right? So maybe getting rid of that whole assumptions idea that, oh, they're brown, okay, that means that's all they eat. Or like, oh, they're white, okay, they wouldn't understand. I think it's about really sharing the stories, being into the gatherings, like how you have bravely, involved yourself into the South Asian communities now, like Ninja Naris. I see you there now almost all the time. That is for your way of really embracing rather than sitting at your home and assuming that's how the other woman might have felt about it, or they
Mm-hmm.
might have thought about that. They think I'm that. Instead of assuming, honestly, just share your stories. That you don't have to be one of them. Just share your part of you out there,
Mm-hmm.
and you will have no idea how many will connect to you like a magnet. Like it's just about, instead of assuming and sitting with it, it's about just sharing the stories. And I found out, no matter, even if all my guests are Europeans or Caucasians, they are. At the end of the day, I feel like we're all similar.
Yeah.
We're all
Yeah.
here navigating life. I mean, even they're telling me how, you know what, the other, like I have this woman, she's so lovely. She's in her 50s and she's come to my class 6, 7 times. Yeah, 6, 7 times. She's like, she's white, but she's like, you know what, Shuraya? I wish I was brown. I wish I
Okay.
was black. My friend who's Chinese also, and she said the same thing. Like, I wish I was brown so I could also go to Ninja Naris. So she's like, I wish I was your friend so I could just come and like talk in your language because your language has so much love. Like your food
Mhm.
tastes so delicious. I grew up with eating canned food.
Yeah.
So here she is finding. So again, it's that finding that joy, that love, the good things of, and then kind of holding on to that. And I think
Yeah.
that only happens after you opening up and
Yeah.
also letting them also come in your space as well.
What's something you hope for your children to take away as they're growing up in Canada, born and raised, and you shared your own experiences. Like, what are you hoping to see different for them?
Um, to be like, it's okay if you don't understand something. For example, like I know my daughter was the only, even at the preschool, she was the only brown girl. She was the only brown girl. Everyone else was, and I don't ever want to be sure that the skin color is there. I know that thought will come into their head because, again, children are curious. Children will ponder about the idea. Someone will point that out and
Yeah.
say, hey, you're a different shade. Instead of, I want to, first of all, before they even get to that, I want to create a space because I don't have no control of that, right? But
Yeah.
I have a control of creating my space and my bubble. And I want them to be open enough or me creating a safe enough space for them to come to me with curiosity and ask that, what does that mean?
Yes.
And instead of sitting alone with shame, instead of sitting alone, because I know when I felt that I had nobody. I could not. When I got bullied like that, I did not have my parents' support. If I told them, they would have been like, just suck it
Yeah.
up, like
Suck it up. Yeah.
something, right?
Yeah.
Suck it up, leave it. It's okay. You're graduating this year.
Yeah. Push.
But yeah, push through. But it doesn't work that way. It
No.
carries through your adulthood. And I think I'm not a psychologist, but I think I'm well equipped when it comes to understanding that childhood trauma or even those little like feelings that you have need to be addressed. My son does go to therapy when he became 6. He doesn't express as much, even though I have created space. But again, kids have their own ways, right? He also lost his grandpa, which he was very close to, like my dad. He went into his funeral. So, but he didn't share, even though I cried in front of him and I told him, listen, Shan, I'm right here for you. You can tell me, but he didn't. But when the therapist asked him, draw me sadness, he drew a graveyard. For him, that's sadness. And that, when I saw that drawing, again, we all are we all should work towards providing that safe space for our kids because they are our future, right? They're our future, and we need to really pay attention. We need to create that space where if the student did say that to them, my daughter should be coming out, and she does. Oh my goodness, Kiran, her curiosity,
There you go.
her level of questioning,
Good.
if she's confused about something, why? Like that question, why? I don't go like, stop asking me why. I said
Yes.
so. I don't do that. Why? I'll tell you. And if I don't have the time or if I don't know, I will say, Mama doesn't know the answer yet, but let me find that out for you. And confidence. So here you have a fear, but then you provide them with the tool that next time when they do come across the same interactions, now they're confident enough to say, hey, I didn't like the way you spoke to me that day. That hurt my feeling. And if you continue, I won't be your friends. So it's these kind of tools to give them.
Yeah,
And
like it's so clear that you are doing the work for yourself to show up for your children. And I think that's the biggest purpose when we do have kids is
mm,
can we leave this world a little bit better than we were in? And a lot of us grow up with this, well, I turned out fine mentality. And honestly, we're not trying to just turn out fine. We're trying to make it a bit better. And I think our
yes,
our kids, exactly what you said, that self-confidence is so important. And my husband and I talk about that too. We're like,
yeah,
who cares if they suck at school? Who cares if they're great at school? They'll figure it out. But at the end of the day, they won't be able to figure out any of this stuff if they don't
mm,
have any kind of worthiness or
Mm.
self-confidence or reassurance. And a lot of the times when we become adults, we're looking to other things, other people, material things to
Yeah.
show our relevance. And that's just not possible for all of us that don't have that kind of money. So
Yeah.
how do we really show up with
Mhm.
confidence? And I think the key is it's got to start young. It's got to
Yeah.
start with, like you said, opening the door to allowing
Yeah.
them to feel the
Yeah.
things they're feeling. And a lot of times our community, we try to protect our kids, and it's okay, you'll be fine. But the best protection is doing what you're doing, which is saying, let's be curious about it. Let's talk about it. That's protecting your kid versus telling your kid they're fine, don't worry about it. And so I
Mm-hmm.
love that you are creating that kind of environment for your children. You
Mm-hmm.
mentioned therapy. You've mentioned you've gone to therapy. You've mentioned now your son has. So
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about that. And maybe
Mm-hmm.
where we can go right now is ADHD. Can I ask you about your experience, like when you first realized that was part of your story?
I think, yeah, again, I didn't know about that ADHD and stuff like that. But I think it really, when I had to see a psychiatrist for my mental, issues, because I did have, again, my history, I have a very heavy, very heavy traumatic history. And that is even prior to immigrating. So from young, I have very severe childhood trauma, and of course, on top of that, immigrating, on top of that, being bullied, on top of that, navigating marriages, and on top of that, my relationship with my mom, and all that kind of, and then obviously going through two childbirths. I think I reached a breaking point where I almost wanted to like I didn't know what to do with my head, my body, all these jolting. My body was physically reacting, like physically telling me to, I can't continue like that. I almost had a brain stroke actually before I had the class, a year before I actually started the class. And that was, I think, because of just letting my body go, 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 and again, ADHD, right? And I start being fixated, being that whole concept of we can't sit, we have to do stuff. Because if you sit, then you're considered as lazy, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
all this thing led me to go to therapy. And that's when I find out they diagnosed me with ADHD. That, yes, growing up, I worked in 10 plus different kinds of retail corporation from age 12. So I have a lot of experience with dealing with people. 15 years I have experience with dealing with people of all sorts. And I think all those workforce have told me my greatest skill is multitasking.
Mm.
And that's a trophy and a crown that I shamelessly carried on me. But at that time, I glorified it so much that it drove me to a point where I wasn't getting any task done. Forget about multitasking. I wasn't getting a task done, like a single task done in my satisfaction, right? That's when, and I have two kids. I need to figure this out. So then, yes, after being diagnosed, I learned more about ADHD. It is not a disadvantage, it's how the brain is shaped, whether through trauma, like I do have trauma disorder as well, trauma stress disorder. I do have that. So, with all that, how do I navigate? How do I navigate my passion, my desire to talk to people, my desire to build a better relationship with my mom, continuing to have healthy relationship with my husband, my in-laws. Everyone is great. I have the support, but I am somehow failing at it, task by task. And that's when, yeah, ADHD have made me realize that multitasking is not really the greatest skill. Um, a lot has to do with the trauma response, right? Because if you're not doing two things at once, five things at once, then you are maybe not worth enough and you're not good enough. So that feeling of actually not being good enough was deep, so deep inside that I just carried that multitasking strength, thinking that I don't have any issue. It's years of work to really figure out that, oh, I do have ADHD. And yeah, trying to navigate my life with ADHD. I do take medications to slow my brain down. I grew up with a chaotic and unpredictable environment. So what it does is your brain becomes a 24/7 security alarm, even in your sleep. So I thought I had the deep sleep, like literally, like I snore when I sleep. I thought I had the deep sleep. I can sleep anywhere, like I can sleep anywhere and stuff like that. But when they use mechanic something like that, like a device to figure out my quality of sleep, they're like, I slept for half an hour.
Wow.
I slept for only half hour deep sleep. So there's deep sleep, there's like different graphs. So I went through all those tests and I'm like, oh, even when you are sleeping and you feel like you're falling off the bridge and you kind of
Yeah.
wake up,
Yeah.
the frequency of that, it matters to you. And I was having it quite a frequently. And again, that's trauma response. That affects my sleep, which affects my functionality during the day.
Yeah.
I have two kids to raise. I know the importance of parenthood because I think millennials are the first generation to grasp that concept of parenthood. And even my mother-in-law, when she tells me, back in my time, I didn't have to do that much work.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't have to talk that much. And I'm like, no, you have to.
Yeah.
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 I married
Yeah.
your son. You do have to, but you just didn't know.
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we're here, our millennials as parents, we're not only healing ourselves, we're not only learning ourselves, we're also parenting, and we're also parenting our husband and our
Yeah.
parents,
Yep.
you
Yep.
know. So again, it's
Well
not in a
said.
negative way. It's not in a negative way, but I think now with the right amount of now that I figured it out, I think that I do have bad days. I definitely have bad days, which is fine. I don't beat myself up for it. I don't feel like, oh my God, that's it. Like, there's no point. There's no point of living. Like, no. I live for myself. That's something that the therapist had to tell me. The Shuraya, you're not living for your kids. You're living for yourself. The skincare is not to look pretty. It's you're taking care of yourself. So that's why, like you mentioned, at age 35, only the age 35, I realized you should be doing skincare. We're all aging. We're all like, we should carry ourselves with more grace. And that starts with simple as skincare.
Yeah, it's like just even it like you said, it's not the looks, aesthetics, but it's the from the inside, I'm
It's all
worthy of
inside.
this. I
Yeah.
deserve this. I deserve to care for myself. And I think we sometimes mix the message and we think, oh yeah, I don't care because I don't care how I look. That's great. That's
Mm-hmm.
awesome. But that's not really what it is. Yeah. And we're also not going to the extreme of Botox and stuff like that. We're just
No.
talking about
Yeah.
giving yourself that time and to look at yourself in the mirror. Like when did you start looking at yourself in the mirror?
Mm. It's crazy. I think
Right?
I, I think I still struggle. I think I
Yeah.
still struggle at looking at myself in the mirror for too long. But it's practice, right?
Like from here to here,
Yeah.
and then there's the full length mirror too.
That, yeah, yeah. I'm not buying full mirror length. I do have them at my home because, again, I have to. I want my daughter, who's my son too.
Yeah.
Skincare is for boys and for girls, but I want one. My daughter now pretends to put my skincare on her face. I didn't grow up watching that, Kiran.
Right.
My mom didn't have a skincare concept. She maybe got that concept when our siblings became older, maybe when she was maybe in her 40s and 50s. So
Yeah.
she self-sacrificed herself so much. And as our oldest daughter, that's what I saw. And that's what all the thinking is coming from, right? It is a generational trauma. It's not just
100%.
it's a
Yeah.
generation trauma. I am a cycle breaker and it will take some time. My daughter, of course, it will come to her naturally because now she has seen her mom has these products or these day cream, and she has this face wash. Now she knows, coming back after school, like I have to, she wash my face and go to sleep,
Yeah.
feel fresh, feeling fresh,
Yeah.
yeah. That will come to her naturally. Yeah. So
Yeah. Well, and it's like you said, like you're a cycle breaker. And I think it's exhausting because we're bringing in the stuff that we know from our past, our history, and then we're looking at the future and we're like, oh, okay, something's unsettling. I'm trying to make some
mm,
changes. And that can be a lot of pressure on ourselves because
yeah.
we are trying to break those barriers. Like you said, it's a generation that's learning of what parenting is. And it's
Mhm.
not, shade to the previous generations, the elders. It's just we learn as we grow, and that's the way, gratefully, where we're learning. There's all these different resources and ways to deal with the generational trauma, the intergenerational trauma, and like things that I think a lot of our community is suffering so much from, given the past with their history, colonization. But there's such a disconnect to see how many generations later we're still suffering from that.
Yeah.
And I think our generation is starting to see those things and put labels and names and words and meaning. And even in therapy, there's a lot of conversation about decolonizing therapy now, because a lot of us go to the Western therapists and Western mentalities. And it hasn't been fitting and healing. And now there's even resources for us to see a racialized therapist, someone that looks like us, someone that we don't need subtitles with. And I think all those things weren't available in the same way for our elders. So you're right. We're not speaking poorly of that. And we don't have to speak badly of that, but we can speak of it so that we can, help the next generation. I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah. No, I think, we have first step is to acknowledge it. It is the acknowledgement is the first step before you heal. You have to acknowledge, first of all. And then second of all, the process of healing starts, right? Then the diagnosis starts. Then it starts with navigating your life now with all these tools that you have. But yeah, what I want to have is, I know in therapy and psychology, psychiatrists, when I go on social media, there's this tools, Kiran, like the tools, right? You need tools to navigate through life. It's not about getting rid of your anxiety. It's not about getting rid of ADHD. It's about finding the right tools. I think I want to add to that, and I didn't read it anywhere. It's something that I created. This quote is, yes, you need tools to navigate life, but at the same time, you have to remember that we're not a toolbox. We're not a machine. And yes, we have tools, but don't expect us to be perfect now, or we got it all figured out, and not make mistakes. We're not a toolbox. We are getting tools, but we are still human, and we will make mistakes. And let's accept that, and learn that.
I love that. I love that, because I think that's the key in all of this. Is we still have to be human. We still have room for error. And as we should, that's how we learn, when we make mistakes. And again, many of us grew up not being able to experience those mistakes. There's lots of fear-based growing up, all those sorts of things, and lack of stability in these homes. And to now go to the other extreme, where there's like you said, a tool, a meme, a definition for everything. We can't overdo it too. And I think in there somewhere, we have to also remember, like, our roots, our ancestry, all of that has such a significant therapeutic background. There's so much our own community was doing way back when, just like planting our bare feet on the grass, and how grounding that is, and things that we're now realizing, that these are the tools that I need to calm my nervous system and to help my, it's so simple. Like I was telling my husband this morning, I've even just from a medical place, I have all these resources. I have a doctor. I can get blood work. I'm so grateful. Like I have, we have our medical needs right at our fingertips. But I've been experiencing tiredness for so long. And my doctor and we do blood work, and we realize I am having thyroid stuff. It's nothing crazy. Meds, all that's going to help. I'm fine. But I was saying to my husband today, I'm like, for so long I've been feeling off. But even knowing this, even being educated, even having my career in mental health, all these sorts of things that are supposed to help me think I'm better, even with all of that, I'm still operating from that generations and generations of what's been passed down to me of, you're fine, it's just in your head. You just learn to live with the abnormal for so long that you think, it's normal for me to be this tired all the time. And when you realize that there's a reason behind why you're feeling the way you are, like, that's really empowering. It's really helpful. And now I can take a simple pill, and in 3 months, I'm going to have the energy that I didn't have. And it's so ridiculous on one hand of how, like how
Yeah.
we just deal with things in the way that
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
we deal with it, and we suffer silently for no reason.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. Like, who's watching? Who's, where? Like, no one is really rushing. It's your body that you have to listen to. If there's anything you have to listen to, it's your body. Tune
Yeah,
into your symptoms, tune into your headaches, tune into if your body feels tired. I mean, for someone who doesn't take a nap, can you take a nap today for an
yeah.
hour? Like what's gonna happen? Nothing's gonna happen. So your body is craving that attention that you do have to attend to. Yeah.
Definitely. And I love that you said that, like, start with the body, because it always tells us. It
Yeah.
always tells us what we need, what we don't need.
Yeah, it does.
So what would you say to women who feel guilty for taking longer than that 5-minute shower, or taking time to invest in themselves, listening to their body, taking rest, who struggle with that? What is one thing that you would say to them?
I would say really just again, it's all the internal, right? It's the internal fear, that the internal struggles, and really acknowledging it. Like I said, write it down. If you think you're feeling guilty, okay, ask yourself, why do you feel guilty? And I'm telling you, Kiran, if you're brave enough to ask yourself, because a lot of women and men are not even brave enough to go through that route. You know it's coming from childhood. You know it's coming from your upbringing. You're not born with that kind of fear. And so instead of us not getting that right support when we're young, ask yourself now, right? Like, why do I feel guilty? And really, the answer is within. The answer is within. And do you really want to take, how do you feel? Or I would ask, okay, let's say the struggle is taking the 3 minute, but did you have fun rushing that shower? How did it really feel about rushing that 3 hour, rushing to bed, rushing to not finding the towel? Again, you're causing all those things, right? Nothing's good coming out of it. Everyone deserves to love themselves. Just give yourself some grace. No one is watching you, just you. And yeah, carry yourself with greatest confidence and pride. And it comes by sharing.
Yeah.
It really comes by sharing your joy, sharing space, surrounding yourself in a space where it's going to be discomfort at first. But then we have heard about comfort zone being the danger zone, right? Get out of the comfort zone and really take that risk. With that risk will come 10 kind of connections.
Yeah.
So just take that step and go easy on yourself. You are wonderful the way you are. You are where you're supposed to be.
Mhm. You mentioned going to therapy as well. And so, what about some feedback for people who might be nervous about starting therapy, or can't find someone who gets it, quote unquote? What would you say to them?
Or finding the right therapist, like you mentioned, definitely a South Asian, or like if you're a South Asian descendant, then definitely find a therapist who's also brown, who's also South Asian. Because before that, I had a Caucasian woman that definitely I did not connect from the get go. Not because of, but it was because of how she was talking to me. I felt like it was just out of a book, not really as a personalized kind of understanding there. And I think with South Asian, therapist now, I see her for 3, 4 years now. She's been great. I don't have to explain what living with the in-laws is like.
Yeah, totally.
I don't
Yeah.
have to explain to you what it was like, honestly, to navigate life here in Canada with different languages, and she just gets it, and that takes so much burden out of you to overshare because going to therapy is already so hard on us, and now we have to like teach,
Hmm.
explain
Hmm.
more. That's daunting, right? So you do want to get that. The main goal is to really not getting rid of the anxiety, but to work with your anxiousness, your anxiety, right? Anxiety, we want to navigate life with it, and I think the earlier we realize, the earlier we can again acknowledge it, heal, and then be a better person, learn better, really open up in the space where we want to. Like it really all goes down to what do you want for yourself? And you know what you want for yourself. Because you will say, I want to be more confident. Like, I want to be better. Why can't I speak like that? But there's always like just it all comes with acknowledging why do you think you can't? Because you have everything where you can. It's just finding your voice, finding that tools will take time. And really, guys, like the brown therapists out there in Calgary is amazing.
Yeah,
I
100%.
love them. Yeah, I can
Yeah.
even share my like the counseling that I go to. I have no problem. I can refer a lot of women there. Yeah.
I think you're right. There are more brown therapists out there who get it, want to do the work. And it's like, again, no shade on, like you said, the white therapist. Sometimes it's just this disconnect
Yeah.
and lack of understanding of what your own community needs are. And what gets complicated as the client is like we don't even sometimes know what our own community needs are. So we need a therapist
Mm.
before us that understands also the schooling side, but also our culture and how those things come together, and they show up together a lot more than we realize. And whether you're an
Yeah.
immigrant, whether you're born and raised here, there's all these sorts of things that we just don't consider that our therapist can be helpful for. And I think I'm noticing a lot too is that there's so many opportunities that the South Asian community is putting out that are not just even therapy. Like I saw a flyer for a group hiking experience.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
saw a yoga in the park. There's lots of different activities and therapeutic
Yeah.
get-togethers. A lot of
Yeah.
people in the community are coming together to do that are free, that are very
Mm-hmm.
little of charge. Even the
Yeah.
other day, like you and I got to go to one of the Ninjanary
Yeah.
backyard kind of barbecues. That was therapeutic for so many of
Mm.
us, showing up and being with like-minded women, playing the music, eating the food, laughing, having conversation. That's also therapy. And I think the key is to not live in isolation. And a lot
Yeah.
of our women find themselves doing that. And
Mm-hmm.
so I hear a lot of what you're talking about, from sharing your process with grief with your dad, the moves. There had to be some kind of connection with a community to help you get through some of those rough patches. And
Yeah.
so I'm grateful for what you're sharing. If you could go back to one age, what age would that be, and what would you tell her?
When I was
Oh, wow. Okay.
five,
What would
yeah,
you tell 5-year-old Shuraya?
I would tell her that what is going around, whatever is happening around you, however way you're being treated, or whatever you're surrounded, that's making you feel uncomfortable, hurt, or confused, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. It has nothing to do with you, and that's there's nothing you could have done. It's I feel like with children, it is so tough um, to undo the stuff. You can't undo. And Kiran, I want to say is trauma, right? Traumatic events happen to everyone. With a different degree of severity. But traumatic events happen, whether it's a car crash or you're, getting an injury while you're playing soccer, or abuse, mental, physical, all those. It's traumatic events, but it's only a trauma when you sit with it. It's really only a trauma when you sit with it. Like, let's say a girl went through abuse, and it's very traumatic, but she had no support, right? No support. Instead of that, she got shamed, blamed, ridiculed. I think that's where became her trauma that results into even adulthood.
Yeah.
But let's say the same girl went through the same thing, but she had her family, her siblings, her extended family, doctors, teachers. That traumatic event didn't become like a trauma that she carried through adulthood now, that she's healed, right? I just want to, because it is something that it comes in waves, that it was not my fault because I was a child. And that's it. There's nothing I could do. Yeah.
I think you put that so well. I think exactly what you're saying is, A, going back and spending time with those parts of us that didn't get the healing and the support that was needed. Because you're right, it does continue to show up in how we are as adults, if we're parents, how we parent. And you're so right. Trauma happens to everyone in all sorts of different ways. It's just what was happening in the environment immediately after. And when we can't prevent bad things from ever not happening, but we can choose how we process them. And kids need that. They deserve that. They are, like you said, the future. And I think that's an important part of parenting is like, we're going to screw up our kids too. But can we have a level of awareness as adults around them? And also, I think being able to go back and apologize. A lot of kids don't get to hear their caregivers and adults around them go back and say, I'm sorry, I screwed up. I didn't do that well, and I want to try this again. Like you can save years of therapy by doing things like that.
It's like accountability. And
100%. That's exactly it.
So I think, if you think, that's why those women who are thinking of providing or being better, and this is the gift that you give to yourself when you're healing. There's no other thing. It is a gift to heal because everyone deserves to heal. I think healing comes from taking showers more than 5 minutes.
Yeah. Exactly. There's a reason why we do it. It's not just because. So when you, like you said, you spend time with yourself, you learn your own patterns of why do I keep going back to this thing? Why do I not do that? And it's often connected to unresolved things that happen to us, whether it's in childhood or even in adulthood. And I agree with you that we owe it to ourselves to go back and address it, because the bottom line is it's being addressed. And it's being addressed through our body, through our minds, in negative ways, getting diagnosed with heart issues, leg issues, popping pills, addictions. That's these are huge ways that we're treating trauma. So we say we're fine, but all of a sudden
a coping mechanism, right? Yeah, just to survive. Those coping mechanisms, they're not permanent. You really do need to dig deep and just do that hard work, and then you'll be free. Yeah.
Well said. Is there anything that you wish, my dear, that I asked you today, or you want to go back and add to or clarify that I didn't?
I think you did a wonderful job at giving this opportunity to share these important topics that I feel like every other, even once a month, all adults should tune in and learn and take something and also implement, right? Like, I feel like it is very, very important. I want every single human being in this world to be free. Now, remember, I didn't say happy. I want them to be free. I want them to be free. And I think there's a quote that I wrote. I have a quote book. I make my own quotes. I should post them on Instagram. I would like to say, there's a term in children, we say, sharing is caring, right? When they want to don't share, you go like, oh, sharing is caring. You should share, blah, blah, blah. So this phrase actually repeats in childhood and then again in adulthood. So we need to now go back to our adulthood and say, sharing is caring. And children, that sharing is caring came from our materialistic view because they are not sharing their toys, their food. Adulthood, it's deep stuff. It's these stories, your feelings, your emotions, and what's going on. And sharing is caring comes again. It's like a cycle. So I think it applies to everyone.
I'm imagining you bringing one of these quotes and like making it a theme for your cooking night, and then that's the topic, and then we talk about that. I think there's something there that you should be doing, because you're so well spoken, your heart is so open, and your cooking skills are just like off the charts. Like, you put all of that together. That would just be a great discussion to have about, how do we go back to, even just the topic, like you said, of sharing is caring as adults. We all need lessons and reminders of that. 100%.
Absolutely. I wrote it down. I will make it happen.
Yeah,
Thank you
yeah,
so much, Kiran. That's a
that's
wonderful
your call
suggestion.
to action, but you also get to give, if there's one thing and only one thing our listeners that are with us today leave with, what do you hope that one thing is?
One thing that you will leave from here is it may look very well put together, like you said. This is Shuraya from Shuraya's Kitchen, who loves to host, loves to cook, and creates a feast. But at the end of the day, yeah, it's share your stories because I'm so damn attuned and invested. I want to connect. I want to build a community of simple, like where people feels free in a non-judgmental way. No one is going to judge each other, and I want to build a community. And I do want everyone to feel this urge, this desire, this whatever void they have, please fill it. And you are always welcome to come to Shiraya's Kitchen. Because I think one way or another, we all have the ability to fill your void. You just have to, yeah, let yourself,
I love it.
you know.
Last two things. One is your middle fingers up, which we'll do in a second, but where can people reach out to you if they want to have the Shuraya's Kitchen experience?
Yeah, you can visit my website, www.shurayaskitchen.ca. I do have my shop there where you will find the spices that I freshly grind for you right when you order. To all my classes, I host one class a month, and I have now till September. I'll post my October, November, December class soon. And yeah, you can find me there. You can find me in Instagram, Facebook, also at Eventbrite. I am here. I'm here on Google Map.
So
There's
where
no
on
excuse to
Instagram and
connect.
Facebook? What are your handles for Instagram
So
and
I think
Facebook?
it will still be Shuraya's
It's
Kitchen.
kitchen? Okay.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Shuraya's Kitchen. Yes.
And we'll have that in the show notes. Um,
Yep.
I really hope people go. I think it's an experience that you won't forget. It could be a cool family experience. It could be a work team building exercise. It
Yeah.
could just be you by yourself wanting to meet people. Like there's so
Yeah.
many reasons to show up. You don't need to go with people. You can
Yeah.
just show up hungry because you need
Mm-hmm.
to make sure you're hungry when you show up because there's a lot of food
And I don't
to
like
get through.
leftovers. I don't like
Yes.
leftovers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that's a good one to remember, but there is a lot of food that you have to work through. So
Yeah.
okay, so lastly, like what do you want to put your middle fingers up to? What are you putting your middle fingers up to these days?
These days, I would say insensitive. Insensitive is what I am. Actually, I know it's kind of off it again goes back to another quote that I wrote. It's basically it was my sudden. Actually, I realized that a few days ago about why I that insensitivity. So being sensitive, we have to stop using it as a negative emotion. So you are too sensitive. You're sensitive. It's a negative emotion. We, for some reason, our society have dwelled in this idea sensitive being a negative emotions, and then somehow being insensitive became a sense of humor. So I
Yeah.
think I want to put my middle finger up to all those insensitive comments, feedbacks, and it's time, urgent time that we learn how others feel and to put yourself into other people's shoes and to really build empathy. Empathy is a learned skill, it's not something that you're born with. Please learn about empathy. Everyone has a chance, whether you're 50, 60, 12, doesn't matter. Work on your empathy skills. Yes.
Well said. I love that. The world could really use that today. That's really
Yes.
well said. So, Shuraya, thank you for opening your kitchen up to people like me who super connected and we're grateful for going. Thank you for sharing your story today. Thank you for opening your heart to us today. I know sometimes conversations like this don't always come easy, right? We're talking
Mm,
about grief, we're talking about mental health, we're talking
yeah,
about identity and the parts of ourselves that we're just still figuring out in real time. But you were so open, so willing to go there today, and I know there's a lot of people that are going to feel connected, especially our
mm,
immigrant women that are
yeah,
isolated. There's going to
yeah.
be a lot of themselves are going to see in your story, and I'm really grateful
That's
that
awesome.
I could be here with you for that. So thank you for your time.
Well, thank you for letting me share my stories. And I shared a lot that not a lot of people know about, actually.
Aw,
Right?
I'm
So,
honored that you
no,
trusted us.
it's definitely a lot of new information to my followers, to the people, and yeah, goal is to reach out to as many people as we can to help each other, to build that connection, community. And thank you for trusting me, and thank you for inviting me to speak at the City Hall this year. Like, it's because of
Oh, yeah,
you I got that
that was great.
opportunity. That was a great confident boost for me. So thank you so much. And we will talk again. Yeah. Thank you, Kiran.
We will talk again. No, I'm really glad that you enjoyed that. And to the people, particularly the maybe even the women listening today, we say these conversations that we have here on our podcast are door openers. We're just scratching the surface. We're just getting started.
Mhm.
So we ask for your feedback. We want you to build onto a conversation like today's. If you want to say something, you always know where you can find us. If you feel there's other women that maybe could take something from today's conversation, please pass this along to them. I think that's a lovely way to share that you're thinking about them. Any last words before we say peace out, Shuraya?
Just relax. Take this day for yourself. Yep.